Hi, guys. You remember these, don't you? Well, these are going to be making a comeback soon. There'll be no more time for camera magic or any other kind of shenanigans that we can't pull off live and in person. So, welcome to the State of the Training 2022. So, first off, let me say that if you're listening to me right now, I'm not going to say a lot new that's not already in the text form of the email. I just know some of you like to have more of an audio format or a video format. I will ad lib a little bit here in the more interactive format, but essentially there's no new information that's not already in the email. And so the training has obviously been in a bit of a weird space over the last few years, just like everything else has been in a weird space over the last few years. Yoga in particular has been in a weird space because who the hell wants to go into a room with a bunch of other people breathing when there's a deadly respiratory virus out there that's going to come and get you? So, but we've survived, and that's thanks a lot to you for getting into the online training and keeping up with training. I thank you very much for that. It has been a big help. I do apologize that it's been a while since I've communicated to you. A lot of that just has to do with the fact that I've had some big things going on behind the scenes in terms of shifting gears into this new phase that we're beginning to enter. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, is that there is this new phase that we're starting to move into for both in the world and in the training. In terms of the training, the new phase is something that I've already described to you a bit, but I'm going to just review it real quick. Basically, training is rebooting. Completely different kind of training. You'll notice that some of the modules are the same, but very few of them are. A lot of it is going to be different modules. There's going to be new content in the training. Part of this is a shift for me in the training of going from focusing on drilling deep, but oftentimes narrow because there's only so much time you have to do things, toward having more breadth in the training. What this means in practical terms is really diving into the nitty-gritty detail of how different building blocks of practice fit together. Some of you have already experienced this with the online training in what we call practice plays and sadhanas. This is going to become a fundamental part of the training from here on out. I think you'll like it. It's going to be more helpful in terms of, as an advanced person, having a sense of how things fit together for a yoga practice for your drop-in students, especially, and how to really communicate and take your students on a deeper journey. Another advantage of this approach is that it's really going to let us break down practice in a way that helps ramp things up easy and slow. A lot of you and a lot of students out there have begun to lose their yoga practice over the last couple of years. And so I think this will make for a nice onboarding, a nice on-ramp in that case in terms of figuring out how to really rebuild your yoga practice well. The feedback that I've gotten so far in the training is that this has been a very enlightening process, even for the most experienced practitioners and the most experienced students in the yoga teacher training. So I think you're going to like it. I'm going to keep this course going through probably like 2026, and then I'm going to kind of probably around 2026 start to do a little bit more of a hybrid between the current approach and the old approach, so we can have this breadth and depth approach. But this new approach of having these building blocks of practice that help make things more definable, both in terms of strict technique of practice as well as things that are more what I would call intuition pumps or more essence side of practice. I think this will really help put a lot of things together for a lot of you, as well as provide insight to yoga practice that is very accessible, not just in deepening your own practice, but is actually accessible to a lot of students as well. So I think you're going to like this. It's a new approach, and it is totally backward compatible with your old training, but it means the requirements have changed a little bit. They're actually much more simple now. And it also means that we're going to be learning kind of in a way new different stuff. So I'm excited to bring this forward to you. So this is generally what I call bringing the training into what I call training 4.0. And this I was actually going to do this later, and I thought maybe mid 2020s I would start to do this, but so happens now's a good time to do it since it's a complete refresh, restart of things that we're going to be doing when we take the training live this fall. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So, obviously, the big elephant in the room. What are we doing this fall? Well, I got a schedule for you. You can scroll down in the email to see it. The schedule is set, and we will be doing teacher training live again, just like the old days, just like 2019. What's going on with that? What's going on with that? Because the big elephant in the room is COVID. And what is going on with COVID? Well, I'm not a scientist. I did train in STEM and in a lot of science stuff, but I'm not a scientist. I don't know what's going on with COVID exactly. But so I'm just going to take a step out there, and essentially this training is now going to approach COVID as endemic, which is to say, like it's a cold or flu, and everybody's probably going to get it at some point regardless of what they try to do about it. And that's just kind of the way it is. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the way that this training is going to be approaching things. So I do not mean to infer by this that, that taking precautions and protecting yourself and anything like that are bad ideas. I do think that we're getting into a phase now where we're starting to realize that some of these protective measures that we have taken, if they go a little too strong, a little too far, they can actually have downsides to them. And so what I want to do is try to mitigate a little bit of a middle ground here. And so along with the fact that it seems to me Omicron is a bit of a game changer in terms of a variant. As I understand evolution, it seems likely to me that Omicron is, it's unlikely to be replaced by something that is more deadly. That is the way that I understand it. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a health official, so don't listen to me. Go get your own information and figure it out for yourself, because I'm going to be trusting you to find the balance that is right for you between balancing a certain kind of mental health on one side of the polarity and balancing your safety on the other side of the polarity, and make sure that you take the approach that works for you. I'm going to open the venue completely up so that you can make that choice. My intent is to make the teacher training essentially like it was in February of 2020, which is just, it's going to be exactly just we come in and it's just going to be whatever that it is. And you can wear a mask to it if you want. You don't have to. I am not going to be checking anything like vaccination status or otherwise, because at this point, there's obviously ways in which the vaccine is helping. But I just really personally, I do not want to get all up in people's health business. I don't want to be checking, are people updated on their vaccine status? And frankly, half people have gotten Omicron or COVID by now, and that immunity, by all measures, appears to be much stronger than the vaccine. So am I going to leave that person out of the training? It becomes a whole tangled mess. I don't really want to deal with it. I'm going to trust you to make the decision that's best for you moving forward with the training. I realize this may be a little bit controversial for some of you. For others of you, it may not be controversial, but you just know it's not going to work for you. And I am sad about that, that it may not work out and I may not see you for a while. But this is really what this training has to do. It's what I personally have to do to move on. And I think there are a number of you that will be able to find a good balance for yourself. So I'm really putting the choice into your hands on how you want to work with this. Because of, I think there's some residual nervousness in terms of touch, and that's probably going to be true for teaching yoga for a while. The program's going to be a little less touchy for a while, and then I think as people get more comfortable with it, maybe we'll start to bring more adjustments and those kinds of things back. But otherwise, expect the training to operate exactly as it used to in February 2020, in 2019, 2018, 2017, and so on. Now, I have released a new schedule. You can see it in section 3 of the email. I'm not going to read it off because that's really boring. But essentially what you'll notice is there's a lot of stuff here that works with these building blocks and how they fit into the Adhikara matrix. And we'll be going through what all of that means in these modules. I've set dates where the RSVP will go out, as well as what the dates of the module itself will go out. Just like before, you'll get the RSVP. There'll be a more specific schedule then. So feel welcome to read through that schedule. I've got everything through the end of 2024. So you've got quite a lot of modules to choose from going forward. Now, this also means that training certification requirements are changed as well. And essentially, it's going to be much simpler. It's actually going to be very difficult to not get the right requirements unless you almost go out of your way to. But essentially, you're going to want at least 3 foundations module, things that start with an F or a P. You're going to notice there's lots of those available. You want at least a couple of teaching skills type modules, and also there's an integration requirement. But other than that, you just got to get your 14 in, and it's going to be way, way simple for the 300 and 500 because all you got to do is do those things, plus get the required number of modules. If you have questions, let me know. If you're not sure of what kind of plan you want to put together to complete your training, let me know, and we'll figure it out. Just send me an email that has the module. If you have any modules that you're going to be completing but are not completed yet, you're in the middle of some online modules and stuff like that, let me know what those are so we include those in the analysis. Let me know your training goal. Are you going for 200? Are you going for advanced? And any schedule limitations you have, and we'll figure out the schedule that you need to do. Now, we are going to be moving the training to a new location. It's going to be live. I will let you know where this live location is, roughly in about 5 minutes. That's what we call teaser. But big action item. If you still have credits from the studio, please respond to this email by July 31st. So we can transfer your credits to the new location. There's a lot of book work that has to be kind of precise in this, so if you want them, claim them, you paid for them, do them, get them. Let me know by July 31st that you're claiming those, and we'll make sure that they get transitioned to the new location. So, what else in the training? What about assisting? What about prices? Well, prices will be going up. I am changing my prices for the general public immediately to go up to $299 for the early bird price of a module. It used to be $279, $349 where it used to be $329 for non-early bird. I apologize for that. I like to make things as accessible as possible. Unfortunately for all of us, inflation's a bitch, and it just is what it is. However, for you, because your grandfather, grandmothered in, you're going to have your old price for the next year until June of July of 2023. But you'll be good through June of 2023 at what's going to be called the reduced rate price, which is the old price that you have. If you have credits, there's nothing that changes there. You have the credits for the price that you had. But just be forewarned, some prices are going up. I am going to keep the bulk pricing, like when you pay for the whole 200 hours or whatever that it is. I'm going to keep that steady through this time as well, so that if you want to kind of wait and then kind of pay for things in bulk at a time so you don't get the price hike on you, then do that. I'm going to keep that steady as well, so you'll be able to get that chance. Again, thanks for your understanding. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the reality of the moment, and I hope I don't have to do a price hike again for a while, because that will mean that inflation kind of settles off a little bit. Anyway, as far as assisting goes, there's a lot in the training that's adjusting, so I'm going to ease off on assisting for a while. There's going to be assisting email going out this fall. watch for it if you're on the assistance list. If you're not on the assistance list and want to be on it, just email me. Tell me you want to be on the assisting list, and we'll get you there. So I kind of buried the lead here, didn't I? Which is that the training is moving. It's trying to find a new location. And, this has been something I've been looking for a while. And essentially, COVID really wiped out a lot of yoga studios in Madison. And the ones that survived are kind of a little more of the bigger ones. Some of those bigger ones are a little more kind of corporate, just not trying to diss them, but just in the sense of things have a very lockstep way of being done with and at those kinds of studios. As such, a lot of the studios, I could try to wiggle my way into a studio, but just a lot of studios have a certain way of doing things, or they just already have the program they like. It's already established. And so that really leaves me with the choice of either moving out of Madison, which I'm not going to do, or do what I have done, which is I'm going to start a yoga studio. I'm doing this with another individual. His name is Matt Lerner. Some of you have met him because he's done some teaching in the training. He is Jesse Lerner's father, and some of you know Jesse from the yoga teacher training. Anyway, my girlfriend, who you see as the model on a lot of these practices that we've been doing online, Laura, and myself and Jesse and Matt, we're going to be putting this yoga studio together as a nonprofit in hopes that it can last for a while. We want to build something lasting for the community here. And especially for me, I want my teacher training to have a home. Now, I would appreciate it if you could keep this news confidential. As yoga teacher trainees, you really are my inner circle. Maybe not my inner circle, but you're like still a kind of yoga inner circle for me. There's still a lot of setup to do with this. I'm gonna have to really do a lot of work, probably for a long time, but especially in these next few months to get this yoga studio off the ground. The goal is to open in August, and I've got some learning to do because I've never run a yoga studio before. So anyway, I thank you in advance for allowing me to control a little bit the pace that this information flow goes out. I'm not going to disclose the location yet, where it is specifically, but it will be on the Isthmus in Madison. So expect to hear news about that soon. You will get news before I make it public. Again, you guys are kind of my inner circle, so you will hear news before it goes public, but I would definitely appreciate it if you keep things confidential because there's a lot of setup to go. We have to do a bit of creative funding to really make this studio as impressive as we want it to be. We will make it as impressive as we can with what we got. And a place that people can love. And I hope, my goal here is to have a studio that really expresses a lot of the ethics and a lot of the kind of things that we talk about in the training, that it is something that is welcoming to all practitioners. It is accessible to basically anyone who has a curious mind and a body that is willing to participate in the process of yoga, regardless of other things. If you have those two things, this is the kind of studio that I want those people to feel welcome in, making it accessible with breadth, but at the same time hinting at something deeper. People don't want to take workshops, those special minutes of a yoga class where it goes deeper. Essentially, a lot of the ways that I've tried to teach my yoga classes and the ways that I talk about teaching that I think really works well in terms of yoga having the most impact and power. This is what I want to encourage at this yoga studio. And like I said, we're going to have to hustle and do some creative funding to really get this off the ground. So what that means is we could use some help. If you don't have help available, if you need to take the summer off and not worry about anything, I totally understand all of that. But if you do feel natural and of your own accord and without obligation, inspired to help, there are some things that we could use. I have the list in section 8 in the email if you want to look it over in text. But briefly, some things we could use some carpentry for building things like cubbies, changing spaces. We got a bit of a wall door installation thing that we're hoping to get done. Marketing, things from online marketing to art design to graphic design, branding strategy on social media outreach, things like that. Any SEO, search engine optimization experts or online ads expertise is also helpful and appreciated, as well as social media and just online management, updating things. Bulk yoga prop purchasing. If any of you know of any like bulk yoga props that we could purchase, that would be helpful. If there's anyone out there who, if you know any of these, anybody who does these things, or you yourself do these things, a Python coder or a C# coder, for us to have more dynamic website content. A video graphics designer, someone who can design, graphics in video form would be helpful as well, as far as us having some slick stuff to get the word out. And there's more work to be done once the studio's up and running. I'll probably put calls out for even other tasks later on. I'm happy to hear about all references to the things I just talked about that are listed in the last section of the email. I always want to hear about people who are doing good work. That said, we do have a constrained startup budget. So if there's anyone who is interested in doing the tasks on trade, perhaps a 3-way trade if you know someone who can do these tasks, and you get yoga or teacher training, you give them something and they do something for the studio space, that would be lovely. You know anyone who is an interested angel donor? We are a nonprofit after all. That would be helpful. I'm not going to beg for money and labor too much because I know that really gets annoying. But if you do feel inspired to find someone for us, or someone for us, or can work something out for us, again, I'm happy to hear about anybody. I don't have anything against paying people what they're worth. I do have a little bit of a budget to work with, but it is a bit small. And so the more trade, the better. And that's it. New Horizons are on the way. I will let you know the location soon, but we are still in a little bit of lease negotiations, so I don't want to interfere with that. But again, you're my inner circle. I trust you to keep things confidential where they need to be kept confidential. And as soon as the lease is signed, other than the people who are directly working on this project, you will be the first to know the location of the new yoga studio on the Isthmus. It's going to take on this 21st century yoga on the mat ethic, and to New Horizons. I'm excited. I'm also, of course, a little bit anxious about all this. But I think this studio has a real chance to really do some cool things. So I thank you for your help. Even if your help is just like, hey, you come to a class once in a while, or you take a yoga teacher training module once in a while, I'm really looking forward to getting back together, to seeing each other live, to doing yoga in person, and being able to experience each other in person. So that's it. To an excellent future, to a new day. Talk to you again soon. Namaste.